We begin with Sargam Choir, conducted by Dr. Vineet Goswami, Assistant Professor Ad Hoc, Department of Music, University of Delhi.
पहले गलती करके पिया सब ऑन कर रखा था।
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु बुद्धिरूपेण संस्थिता
नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः।
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु शक्तिरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। या देवी सर्वभूतेषु शान्तिरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। शारदे 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 हंसासना शारदे हंसासना शारदे हंसासना सरस्वती माता शारदे
तारदे वरदे
माता भवानी शारदे हंसासना सरस्वती माता शारदे
तारदे वरदे
माता भवानी
हंस जग की साधना हो, हंस जग की साधना हो, हंस जग की साधना हो,
साधना वरदायिनी शारदे 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 हंसासना सरस्वती माता शारदे
तार दे वर दे
माता भवानी शारदे 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 तार दे शारदे तार दे शारदे तार दे
We now begin with the first webinar of the day. The topic is Traditional Music in the Middle East with focus on Iran. Chairing this session is Professor Ojish Pratap Singh, and our panel consists of Dr. Mariam Kharaso from Tehran, Iran. Professor Ojish Pratap Singh is Professor of Hindustani Vocal at our Department of Music, University of Delhi. He's a gifted Hindustani vocalist, took his initial tutelage from his father, and then went on to learn from Ustad Ghulam Siraj Khan of Rampur Sehswan Gharana, followed by Pandit Mahadev Govind Deshpande, an outstanding disciple of Pandit Vinayak Rao Patwardhan of Gwalior Gharana. He's under the tutelage and guidance of the renowned exponent of Gwalior, Jaipur, and Agra Gharanas, Pandit Ulhas Kashalkar, renowned maestro who is one of the finest classical vocalists of the country in contemporary times. Hindustani Sangeet Mein Sahitya, his book, is well received. An A-grade vocalist, Ojish Ji is approved artist of All India Radio and impaneled with ICCR. In his 20 years of academic career, Ojish Ji has performed in concerts, delivered lectures, and conducted workshops at various places in India as well as in China, Mauritius, Nepal, England, etc. Besides being on the selection boards of different universities and Kendriya Vidyalay Sangatans, he is also an expert and jury member of Sahitya Kala Parishad, New Delhi, and the National Youth Festival organized by the Ministry of Youth Affairs. And let me also introduce the panelist who is participating in this webinar. We have Mrs. Mariam Kharaso. She is an assistant professor at the Department of Music, Tehran University. She is a PhD in ethnomusicology, and her area of focus was ceremonial music therapies around the world. She is currently working on an encyclopedia of the typology of regional music in Iran. She has also translated some of the main academic sources of ethnomusicology into Persian. Over to Professor Ojish Pratap Singh.
Namaskar. Today, it is an honor for me to be a part of this two-day international webinar, and I welcome you all to the third session regarding the music of Azerbaijan. We have with us Dr. Mariam Kharaso, Dr. Raza Hussaini Bagaban, Sina Fakhruddin Ghaffari, Mr. Mehran Bagaban and their team members to give us a deep insight into their music tradition, and they will also demonstrate the practical application of the music of Azerbaijan. It will indeed be very interesting to note the similarities between their modes or scales or maqams, as we call it, with our own scales or ragas in our Hindustani music. All these music traditions, whether Greek, Indian, Persian, or Arabian, they have a long historical background and they have evolved in so many centuries. And meanwhile, all these music traditions have shared some of their musical principles between them, and they have evolved in their own distinct way. So I welcome Dr. Mariam Gharyasu and her team and hand over the microphones to them to kindly demonstrate and enlighten us regarding their music. Thank you.
Hi, this is Mariam Gharyasu from Faculty of Fine Arts, University of Tehran. I have done my thesis in University of Nanterre, Paris, and in ethnomusicology, and I've been working in healing ritual music of Northern Africa and Southern Iran. Here I am talking about the regional modes and music in Iran. In Iran we have three different layers of music: classical, folk, and popular. In different regions of Iran, as a multi-ethnic country, we have distinct more than 17 areas like Kurd, Lurs, the Baloch, and the residents of the southern coast of Iran, and the Turk. The Turk people are the biggest nation with a population of 30 million persons. In Iran, we have also different music types, and among which only the Persian classical music and a repertory of the Turk music has been classified in the two last centuries. Today we are going to discuss some aspect of Azerbaijani traditional music. First of all, I must give a definition of the location. When we talk about Azerbaijan, I mean the southern part of the region, which is located in political borders of Iran. The northern part is an independent country, I mean Republic of Azerbaijan. Of course, the music, culture, and language in two parts are the same. This music is constructed on the basis of 7 modes today, and that previously included 12 modes, and today we have just 7 modes. Here we are going to introduce you the 7 modes and the subdivisions. But I don't think that we have time to subdivision, but the main maybe.
Yes.
Azerbaijani traditional music divided in 2 main parts. Ashik music, and which is ancient music of Azerbaijan, and second is Mugham music, whose age classification goes back to about 200 years ago. 7 modes include Rast, which is called Modern Mugham, Shur, Sigah, Chargah, Bayat Shiraz, Homayun, and Shushtar. And now I invite Mr. Bakanam to demonstrate the main intervals of these modes. So please show the Shur, maybe first.
Sure, yes. Shur mostly is played from the G tone, and it includes some tones and half tones, and sometimes chromas. If I play by this sol tone or say from G, I can say both this sound. This is one octave and it starts from so to another so. Of course, this is not only playing in this octave. We come to the next octave of our tar. About 2.5 octave it is played, and exactly their tetrachords are first of all, and the first tetrachord changes to this one too. And second tetrachord is also changing during the playing. The second tetrachord is, and sometimes this is tetrachords of sure, and this melody starts by progressing from so into the next octave and even to the next octave.
Thank you. So, please, this was the first and maybe one of the most developed mukam in Azerbaijan. And the next mukam will be Rast, that
Yes.
you call it, the mother mukam, which means that it's the main mukam, and there are a lot of melody types which are played in this mukam. Please, Rast.
Okay.
Mode.
If we want to speak according to European scales, for example, sol the major, G major, I can say it's exactly like G major, but the tetrachords are different, starting from from E. The second one is.
You mean the second tetrachord?
That's second tetrachord.
The first tetrachord and the second tetrachord.
And the third tetrachord is the same as the first tetrachord. According to that, we have 2 tetrachords, and the second one. But in Rast, the combination of tetrachords is, combinational, and the first note of the second tetrachord starts from the last note of the first tetrachord. Yes.
Thank you. So we are going to the third mukam, which is called Sega. Between the Arabs, we call it Sika, and I think that between the Ragas in India, we have some name which are similar. No?
Yes, name are the same,
Yeah.
but this
The content is
content is different.
The content is different.
And Sega is the most developed mugam in Azerbaijan and whole the Turkish world. It is very loved by the people. And we have different segas from different notes. But the most usual one that everybody plays, and it is common between the mugam music and the ashak music, is sega that is played from E, me, and that sometimes we call it orta secak because orta means the median, the average, because it's the exactly half of the first 5 intervals. And the most popular one is Zalbo secak. The first tetrachord is C, starts from C. Second. But the stopping note and the tonic of the sega is again, as I said, the E, and played like this. But if we want to write the notes according to European scales, always we use C major, but we use some other signs.
Okay, thank you. So as you've heard, Siga is one of the most developed, and this is the mukam which is shared with the ashik music, advanced folk music, and the classical music. Of course, not the classical, but classified music. Maybe it's better word.
For ashik music, yes. Yes. But tell you something. Most of these modes are common between Mugham music and ashik music, but the Siga is most popular.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So the fourth one is Charga.
Charga. Charga is, I think that it's one of the ancient modes of our music, because the Charga is the mode that, according to Plato, says that it's epic.
It's a very epic, yes.
Yeah, epic and tragic, both of them are combined in it. And Charga, again, according to Europeans' case, is C major, but with so many signs changing the mode.
This is the mode that we are going to hear after the lecture.
Yes, exactly. Charga mode mostly on our instrument tar is played from C note and C interval, and if we want to perform it, I mean the daska or the total mode always must be played from C. And the tetrachords are like this. Yes, first and second. Yeah, first tetrachord and the second. And but sometimes, the composers change the tetrachords to combination one, like the combined tetrachord we say, and it's like. Kind of circular.
It means that the tetrachord are not just followed by each other. They are just the first tetrachord finish, and the second tetrachord will start with the end note of the last tetrachord. It means they are not just one after another.
And it's just in case of Charga, not the others.
Yeah, it's very important in the
And one of the most famous operas of Azerbaijan is written according, is composed according to this mode, and it's very popular and loved by the people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So the next mode you play. So Charga is finished.
Yeah.
And we are going to the fifth mode, which is called Bayat Shiraz.
Yes, Bayat Shiraz, again, sometimes according to European scales, again, is like G, minor harmonic, but it's not exactly like European scales, it's somehow different. But Bayat Shiraz, if I say from G again, it's normal interval. The first tetrachord. Second tetrachord. But again, if we want to start it from, because it's not always played by the same notes, G, sometimes we use it the first tetrachord. The tetrachord sometimes change according to melody's progress. This is what, yes.
Thank you. So the sixth one is Humayun, mode of Humayun.
Humayun, very sad and kind of mourning mode, and we have two kinds of Humayun modes. One of them is played from B bemol, and it is signed by the performers and vocalists, but sometimes it's just instrumental performance. It's somehow different. It's sometimes played from G2, but the tetrachords are exactly like this.
First one.
First tetrachord. But again, the tonic note is B bemol, but the stopping point is D bemol.
And the last one is called Shushtar. What is the difference between Shushtar and Roman music?
Why Shushtar in Azerbaijani music is an independent mode? Because first of all, the performing interval is different, the note is different, and
the note, you mean the stop note?
The stop note is different, and there is something. The tetrachords. The second tetrachord is different from mine because of that stopping point, as I told you, and starts with. But in this case, the first tetrachord sometimes is C, D, E, F. Sometimes is because of its changing character in this note, that in upper part of the tar, this side of the tar, it is E bemol, but sometimes in the lower part of the tar, the E note is flat, yeah, it's not bemol. Okay, the first tetrachord, second. Now, if we want to repeat the first tetrachord in the lower part, it will be like this. Because of this changing characteristic of the notes, it's called an independent mode in Azerbaijani music.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now we have known the mode and the intervals of Azerbaijani music, and now we are going to talk just for a few minutes from Fakhreddin Ghaffari about the rhythm in the Azerbaijani music, and then Dr. Reza Hosseini Bahanam and his brother Mehran Hosseini Bahanam from the city of Tabriz in the north part
Northwest
of
Iran.
Yes, they will play a part of Chargah Mugham for you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Greetings to everyone participating in this webinar. First of all, I want to thank Professor Dipti Bella and her entire team at the Music Department of Delhi University for organizing this wonderful webinar. And secondly, I want to thank Dr. Arasu and Dr. Reza for such a wonderful lecture and demonstration of the different modes and the maghams of Azerbaijani music. I'm going to talk very briefly about the rhythmic structures in Azerbaijani music. Like most of what Eastern musics, different forms of Eastern music, such as Turkish music, Persian classical music, and Indian classical music, the folk forms also, including the Azerbaijani music, maybe it's better to call them regional forms. They are also they have cyclic forms, cyclic rhythms, not linear rhythms like Western music. Very similar to Indian music, all the melodies are based on rhythmic cycles, and all the improvisations and the rhythmic melodic forms are constructed upon those rhythmic cycles. But in the beginning of the 20th century, in Iran, we started adapting Western notation system and utilize it in our in the documentation of our music and also in the teaching. So this affected a lot the way we write the rhythmic forms in Iran, and we're using rhythmic Western rhythmic measures such as 2/4, 6/4, or like 12/16, and these kinds of forms to document and to teach our rhythmic forms. But in fact, our rhythmic cycles are much larger and much bigger, and also different than the Western rhythmic measures. So we have some rhythms like 10/8, which doesn't exist in Western music, or like 7/8, 5/4. So these are like rhythmic cycles of 7 and 10 and 5 and 16 and 12, which are very similar to some of those which exist in Indian music, such as Rupak Tal and Jab Tal and Teen Tal. The percussion instrument they play in Azerbaijan is interestingly called nagara, but it's very different than the Indian nagara, which also exists in Iran. The nagara that exists in Iran and in India, it's a kettle drum, but the nagara that is played in Azerbaijani music is a cylindrical drum. So now I'm going to show you a small clip of Vahid Asadullahi. Maestro Asadullahi is one of the most well-known percussionists of the Azerbaijan region of Iran, and I will be showing you a small clip of him playing the nagara, playing the rhythmic cycle of 4 and 6. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mariam, Dr. Raza, Mr. Fakhruddin, Mr. Mehran, and all your team members for such an enlightening lecture demonstration. It is indeed very amazing to see the similarities between our ragas and your modes or the magams. Also, we could notice the same principles being applied to create new scales, just as we do in our Hindustani music system. The two distinct ways to create new melodies or new scales, we use the Murchana Paddhati, that is, by shifting the bass note in a given scale and derive new scales out of it, or by combining different lower tetrachords with different upper tetrachords, and we get new scales therein. For instance, we could notice while you were playing the Shur Mogam, it showed that the lower and upper tetrachords were of Bhairavi and Kafi, and you could make new scales by mixing the two tetrachords in different manners. So it is really very amazing and interesting to see the common practicing between the two music traditions. And it is also a fact that North Indian music system has been benefited by some of your music principles that were introduced in the medieval period. And there are views and counter views regarding the contribution of the musical genius Amir Khusro, but it certainly establishes that Amir Khusro, who was a Persian poet and a noted musician, having a good background of Persian music, he enjoys a very respectable place in our musical history. So I thank you very much on behalf of all my colleagues and students for giving us this insight, for introducing us all to the practical application of your musical tradition. Thank you very much, and I hope all our audience across the globe will be benefited. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
After that very interesting first webinar of the day, let's move on to the next webinar. The topic this time is folk music in Western Europe, Ireland. And chairing this session is Professor Sunira Kasliwal-Vyas, and the panelists are Dr. Stan Scott and Dr. Dorothea Haast, both from USA. Let me first introduce the chairperson, Professor Sunira Kasliwal-Vyas, former dean and head of the Department of Music. She is now professor at the faculty. Dr. Sunira Kasliwal-Vyas has combined her performance career with academics and research in music. She was trained by late Pandit Lal Mani Mishra, a renowned Vichitra Veena player and musicologist. She won the gold medal and prestigious Omkar Nath Thakur Puraskar and completed her doctoral program under the guidance of Dr. K.C. Gangrade. She also learned from Dr. R.D. Chakravarti and also renowned sitarist of Delhi, Pandit Uma Shankar Mishra of Mahir Gharana, the senior-most disciple of Pandit Ravi Shankar. She is an A-grade artist of All India Radio and Doordarshan. Sunira ji has given successful concerts in many prestigious music festivals in India and abroad. She was a member of the Indian cultural delegations to Russia, South Korea, Tashkent, and Uzbekistan from time to time. Her concerts in USA were much acclaimed. Sunira ji is a hardcore researcher, awarded Government Senior Fellowship and Research Award from Music Forum, Mumbai. Her books, Classical Musical Instruments, Surtal and Ravanhatta, are landmark in music literature. And let me also introduce the panelists of this session. We have with us Dr. Stan Scott. He has had his tutelage of Hindustani classical music from various eminent gurus, starting with Guru Lakshmi Ganesh Tiwari at Wesleyan University. He later had the privilege to learn from Ustad Ali Akbar Khan in California, Sri Sushil Mukherjee in Massachusetts, Sri Krishna Chandra Banerjee in Calcutta, Sri Mohan Singh at Shantiniketan, and then Sri Vidyadhar Vyas, who was a visiting professor at Wesleyan University. He also learned about folk music of Bengal from folk singer Kalidas Gupta. Dr. Scott completed his PhD dissertation on Hindustani classical singing. During his visits to India, he performed and lectured at institutions such as the Bhatkhande Music Institute, Lucknow, and Swarmai Gurukul, Pune. In 2001, the Cultural Association of Bengal presented Stan Scott with its Distinguished Service Award for his contribution to Bengali music. Alongside of his Indian music activities, Dr. Stan has been very active in multiple musical realms. He has traveled to Ireland multiple times to do research on Irish traditional singing. As a folk singer, guitarist, mandolinist, banjoist, and songwriter, he has recorded many albums. In the realm of contemporary experimental music, Stan sang a major role in Anthony Braxton's new recorded opera Trillium E. As a writer, he has co-authored 2 ethnomusicology textbooks. As a conductor, he directed the Colgate University Chorus and Chamber Singers for 3 years. As a teacher, he has taught world music and North Indian vocal music at Yale, Colgate, Wesleyan, Clark, and Central and Southern Connecticut State Universities. In January 2012, the Mumbai Music Forum, on behalf of Indian Council for Cultural Relations, All India Radio and Television, the ITC Sangeet Research Academy, the Indian Musicology Society, and the National Center for the Performing Arts presented Dr. Stan Scott with the annual Award for the Contribution to the Cause of Indian Music by an overseas resident personality for his work as an ethnomusicologist specialized in Hindustani and Bengali folk music. His contribution to several pioneering efforts at the promotion of Hindustani music amongst serious musicians and scholars in the Western Hemisphere has given Indian music a unique home in North America and helped India and the USA build new bridges of cultural understanding. What a remarkable career he's had. And I would also like to introduce Miss Dora Haast. She received her Masters of Music in Music Education from the New England Conservatory and her PhD in Ethnomusicology from Wesleyan University. She has done extensive field research on traditional music in Ireland, New England, and India. Her current area of research is on the Gombe tradition of Bermuda. Her books include Music in Ireland, Experiencing Music, Expressing Culture, and Exploring the World of Music. She has taught at Colgate and Wesleyan Universities, served as Assistant Director in Education Abroad and Global Partnerships at the University of Connecticut. She is currently teaching world music at Eastern Connecticut State University. Dora also performs with Irish traditional band Kitchen Sealy. Over now to the chairperson of the session, Professor Sunira Kasliwal Vyas.
Welcome to the fourth session of International Webinar organized by Department of Music, Faculty of Music and Fine Arts, Delhi University. The topic of the seminar is traditional music in different cultures, opportunities and challenges in the changing global scenario. This session is devoted to the folk music of Western Europe, that is Ireland. Today's panelists are Dr. Stan Scott and Dorothy Hest. Irish music, as it is called, is famous world over for its colorfulness and lively presentations. Like all other folk musical forms, it is also a combination of vocal, instrumental, and dance. It is a little fast-paced and very rhythmic. Instruments used are Spanish guitar, violin, flute, hornpipes, jigs, and reels. When Irish people came to America, they brought their music and musical instruments with them. Both Stan and Dorothy Hest have their roots in Ireland. Though living in Connecticut, USA, they with other Irish musicians have made a group and keep performing now and then. Dr. Stan is an extraordinary Spanish guitar player and singer. He is a trained Western musician as well. Later, he became interested in Hindustani classical music and have learnt Hindustani vocal music under Pandit Vidyadhar Vyas for last more than 30 years. His wife, Dr. Hest, is a fine flute player and performs with Dr. Stan in Irish music presentations. I have had a good fortune to listen to the performances when we visit them in USA. I welcome Dr. Stan Scott and Dr. Dorothy Hest to give their presentation.
Greetings. I'm Stanley Scott, and I co-wrote this paper with my wife, Professor Dorothea Hast. We would like to thank Professor Bhala, Professor Day, Professor Sunira Kasliwal, and my Guruji Pandit Vidyadhar Vyas, as well as the Music Department of Delhi University for inviting us to participate in this seminar. The title of our paper is Playing with the Past, Historical Continuities in Irish Traditional Music. Imagine a country with an ancient musical tradition, in which masters of poetry, singing, and instrumental music once served the courts of local chieftains and the high king of the land. Then, imagine that this nation was invaded by a foreign power, which displaced the king and chieftains, imposing colonial rule. Imagine then that the language of the conquerors, English, was imposed as the language of government in this colonized land. Then imagine that a strong nationalist movement arose in this country in the 19th century, and that songs in its native language became its rallying cries. Finally, imagine that this nation achieved independence from British rule in the 20th century. This description of Ireland might easily describe India. Music in the two nations also displays interesting parallels. Highly ornamented vocal performances in free rhythm, two-part musical forms in which the first section dwells in the lower octave and the second section climbs into the higher one, and indigenous instruments in which the essential accompaniment is a constant drone on the keynote. The chieftains of Ireland were the Celts, who originally entered Ireland from the European continent between 500 and 300 BCE. Their poets were the bards, who sang the praises of their patrons in Irish Gaelic, an Indo-European language. By the 12th century CE, the songs of the bards were accompanied by master harpers. hereditary poets and harpers held a prominent position, sitting beside their chieftains and serving as oral historians and keepers of the law. This was the courtly culture of Irish music when King Henry II of England came to Ireland in 1171 CE, beginning the long era of British colonial rule in Ireland. That rule disrupted and ultimately ended the era of the Gaelic chieftains, along with their bards and their harpers. Subsequent generations of musicians and poets sought patronage where they could find it, moving from place to place and mourning their bygone days of wealth and importance. Between the beginning of British rule in 1171 and the establishment of the Irish Republic in 1922, the Irish people created a treasure trove of music, including songs in Irish Gaelic, songs in English, and a huge body of dance music. In this paper, we will focus on repertoire in each of these genres, demonstrating the continuity of tradition and the importance of history in contemporary performance practice. Songs in the Irish language. Sean Nós, literally old-style singing, is the bedrock of Irish traditional music. Although the Sean Nós repertoire includes songs in various meters, it is most often sung in free rhythm. The style tends to be highly ornamented with lyrics in the Irish language. Some Sean Nós songs may date from before the arrival of Christianity in the 5th century CE. Seasonal songs and laments for the dead are among the oldest. One such song, the Irish language Lament of the Three Marys, is a fascinating example. Its verses tell the story of the crucifixion of Christ from several perspectives, including that of Christ's mother, Mary, his apostle Peter, Jesus himself, and the Roman soldiers who put him to death. The choruses of the song consist of an ancient keening chant, sung by professional mourners in funeral rituals dating back to pre-Christian times. This wedding of the Easter story with a ritual chant that the Christian church would have regarded as pagan is a wonderful example of the flexibility of the Irish tradition as it blends opposites into a new synthesis. We will hear it from the great Sean Nós singer Joe Heaney, who won the All-Ireland Sean Nós competition in 1942. When he performed this song, he would always preface it by telling the story of how his own mother sang it every Easter and never could finish the song without bursting into tears. Here is a translation of the lyrics into English. "O Peter, apostle, did you see my loved one? I saw him a while ago being attacked by the enemy. Who is that fine man on the tree of passion? Don't you recognize your own son, mother? Musha, who is that back there whose hair streams down? Who would it be if it was not my own dear mother? Is that the little son that I carried for 3 trimesters? Is that the little son who was born in the stable? Or is that the little son who was reared at Mary's breast? Oh, little darling son, your mouth and your nose are cut. She was lifted up on high shoulders and thrown down on the stones of the street. You may beat me, but do not touch my dear mother. We will kill you, and we will beat your mother." And he was sent to Calvary Hill to add to his passion, and he was carrying the cross and Simon behind him. And blunt nails were driven through his feet and hands, and a spear was driven through his beautiful chest. Listen, dear mother, do not be tormented. The women who will mourn for me have yet to be born. We will listen to 4 verses of this song. asfel akatu morabon ohon sochno Panik mir balle ka Jesu egenarde ohon isochno Meishikin farabrashel arachran pashe ohon sochno ani nachnanin tu the wakawarin ohon sochno ani shenal makin edum permetrira ohon sochno nuni shenal makin arogo sabla ohon sochno nuni shenal makin alon nacht wade ohon sochno avikin urnjach ta de veelste rollen in gare ohon sochno. The melody of this song is modal. It is closer to Raga Sangeet than it is to European art song. Translated into swaras, it focuses on sa, re, ga, pa, and da, occasionally using ma in the phrase ma, ga, pa, da, pa, ga, re, sa, re. It is sung in free rhythm with no perceptible pulse. The melody is ornamented with spontaneous variations from verse to verse. This style, ornamented modal melody sung in free rhythm, is a signature of the Shannos repertoire. It seems to hark back to an era before the development of European harmony, when modal melodies may have dominated across the Euro-Asiatic landmass. Songs in English. During 7 centuries of British rule, government policies sought to curtail the rights of Irish people to own land, hold public office, vote, and receive education in the Irish language. English law and the English language were most prevalent in the eastern region of the country, closest to the capital city of Dublin. Irish remained the dominant language across much of the countryside in areas distant from the governing center. Beginning in the 18th century, poverty, poor social conditions, and religious discrimination caused successive waves of Irish people to seek employment by emigrating to England, Scotland, and America. In the first wave between 1717 and 1776, some 200,000 emigrated from Ireland's northeast to the Appalachian Mountains in the southern United States. The second wave began around 1810, when widespread evictions of tenant farmers crippled the Irish economy. More than 1 million Irish, 1/8 of the population, emigrated between 1815 and 1845. Many sailed for Canada, because transport to this British colony was cheaper than going to the United States. Widespread emigration increased the pressure on parents to raise their children as English speakers. They would need English when they sailed to America. These Irish emigrants composed thousands of emigration songs in English detailing their reasons for leaving Ireland, their experiences in the New World, and their nostalgia for their beloved homeland. Edward Connors wrote one such song. He sold his farm near the small northern Irish village of Port Glenone and booked passage for his family from Belfast, Ireland to Quebec, Canada. In this song, he describes how the food they packed for the voyage, their sea store, was destroyed by a great storm. He also describes their disappointment in Canada, warning others to think twice about leaving Ireland for America. We will listen to this song performed by the great contemporary Irish singer and instrumentalist Andy Irvine. Notice his more modern style. In this recording, he plays the harmonium and also the Greek bouzouki, and he is additionally accompanied on guitar and fiddle by Donald Lunny and Kevin Burke. We will listen now to the song Edward Connors.
Come all you loyal Irishmen and listen all for a while. All you that wants to emigrate and leave the Emerald Isle. A kind advice I will give you, which you must bear in mind, how you will be forsaken when you leave your land behind. My name is Edward Connors, and the same I ne'er disowned. I used to live in happiness near unto Port Glenone. I sold my farm, as you will hear, which grieves my heart full sore, and I sailed away to America. I left the Shamrock shore, for my mind it was deluded by letters that were sent by those that a few years ago to Canada had went. They said that they like princes lived and earning gold galore, and they laughed at our misfortunes here all on the Shamrock shore. So it's with my wife and my family to Belfast I went down. I booked our passage on the ship to Quebec, she was bound. My money, it was growing short when I laid in sea store, but I thought my fortune would be won if I reached the other shore. In subsequent verses,
Edward Connors described how after they were 9 days at sea, their sea store having been destroyed by a sea storm, they had to rely on their captain's kindness to provide them with food to survive the voyage. When they landed in Quebec, they found 300 Irishmen begging from them. Then, when they stayed in Quebec, they were unable to get work. And Edward Connors wrote, "I had friends when I had cash, but none when I was poor. I'd never met with friendship like this, all on the shamrock shore of Ireland." Finally, at the end, he says, "Come all who are intending now strange countries for to roam, bear in mind you have as good as Canada at home. Before you cross over the main where foam and billows roar, think on the happy days you spent all on the shamrock shore." We should get a better CD.
Okay.
In this song, the composer named himself in the second verse. But while Connors tells his own personal story of hardship and regret, songs like this resonated with other emigrants who made a similar journey. As emigration was necessary for millions of Irish through the 19th and 20th centuries, songs like Edward Connors became expressive symbols of shared experience, bringing people together into community and reinforcing identity away from the homeland. When sung today, they keep alive a sense of shared history both in Ireland and in the Irish diaspora. Instrumental music. Irish musicians use the term traditional to describe many genres of instrumental music and dance. Instrumental music includes thousands of dance tunes categorized as reels, jigs, hornpipes, polkas, slides, marches, and waltzes, as well as slow airs based on song melodies. Traditional dancing includes virtuosic step dances that emphasize percussive footwork, and set dances, group dances in a square formation. These forms share commonalities and history with other European musical genres, but they have become distinctly Irish over time. Some of the Irish repertoire is over 200 years old, while other compositions are newly composed but created within the parameters of traditional forms. Many of the instruments played by Irish traditional musicians today, including the fiddle, the harp, the Irish bagpipes, the tin whistle, and the flute, date prior to the 18th century. Of these, the uilleann pipes and harp are the most distinctly Irish representatives. The other instruments were found in similar forms throughout Europe. The uilleann pipes are smaller and quieter than the more familiar Scottish Highland bagpipes. They are bellows blown rather than breath blown and played indoors in a seated position. The piper uses the right elbow to draw air in through the bellows and the left elbow to maintain pressure on the air reservoir. A full set of pipes includes a chanter, the melody pipe, 3 drone pipes, and 3 regulator pipes containing individual keys that may be depressed by the heel of the player's right hand to add harmonic accompaniment. We will listen to uilleann piper Jerry O'Sullivan playing Garrett Barry's Jig, a tune named after a famous piper who lived near the west coast of Ireland. First, we will hear Jerry playing the tune simply using only the chanter with no drone pipes. Then he will add the drones when he repeats the tune. we will listen to a second version in which Jerry adds melodic ornamentation. When he repeats the tune, he will add a counter melody by pressing his right wrist against the levers of the regulator pipes. The harp. The harp was the favorite instrument of the Celts. As the wealth and power of the Gaelic chieftains waned under British rule, their musicians had to take to the road. Changes in patronage forced the Irish harpers to play for the new Anglo-Irish gentry and for the local Irish population. As the harpers adapted to their new traveling lifestyle, they developed new playing styles and repertoire. The most famous harper of this period was Turlough O'Carolan, who lived from 1670 to 1738. O'Carolan was blinded by smallpox at the age of 18. He became a harper, pursuing one of the few careers available to the blind. His servant brought him by horseback from the home of one patron to the next. In each house, he composed a new piece to honor his patron. His compositions show considerable influence from both the Irish dance music and the European Baroque music of the period. We will hear one example, Planxty Johnson, played by the contemporary harpist Sally Perrotin. Planxty Johnson demonstrates O'Carolan's ability to blend elements of Irish music with European classical music. Rhythmically, it is a danceable Irish jig, but its harmonic style is strongly influenced by Baroque music from the European continent. The Irish harp, like the Gaelic order itself, died out in the early 19th century. In the 20th, the harp became a powerful symbol of Irish identity. It became the great seal of the Irish Free State, and today it is still seen on the Irish euro coins. Today, many young players, organizations, classes, festivals, and competitions are devoted to the Irish harp, which in 2019 was declared by UNESCO to be an intangible cultural heritage. The dynamism of Irish traditional music today is reflected in the many paths that musicians take in their approach to its performance. Performers range from traditionalists who want to preserve performance styles of the past to modernizers who incorporate influences from classical, rock, rap, and world music. Contexts for performance also vary. The majority of performers participate in informal gatherings of musicians called sessions, held in pubs, homes, and other community spaces to sing and play for pleasure. Before the pandemic, Irish performers toured the globe and sessions took place in cities ranging from Tokyo to Paris and London to San Francisco. During the last year, many Irish singing clubs have moved their meetings online, holding weekly Zoom gatherings in which singers queue up to take individual turns singing traditional songs. Instrumental sessions have not fared as well during the pandemic. The delayed transmission inherent in online meetings prevents musicians from being able to play together remotely in real time. Amidst a diversity of approaches and contexts, and despite the growth of a new musical professionalism, important continuities permeate the core of the Irish tradition. In this paper, we have focused on factors that have maintained and nourished the tradition over time. Our discussion is centered on specific repertoire to illuminate the rich interplay between history, cultural identity, and traditional music in Ireland. Thank you.
Hello. Stan and I are going to play for you 2 Irish jigs. First of all, we're going to introduce our instruments. And my instrument that I'm going to play is called the tin whistle or the penny whistle. It's been in its present form in Ireland since the 19th century. And it was originally made of tin, and it was very inexpensive, which is how it also got the nickname penny whistle. Today, I have a couple of different ones, or 3 different ones. This one, the cheapest one, is made of a copper alloy. This one is made of brass. And then the one I'm going to play is made from the same material that the Irish flute is made from, which is ebony wood.
And I'm going to be playing the mandolin. The mandolin is of Italian origin, and 3 centuries ago they were made with a bowl back. It's tuned like a violin with pairs of strings, G, G, D, D, A, E, E. So every note you play has the added resonance of a unison string. It came into Ireland following along in the footsteps of the banjo, which came into Ireland in the late 1800s, and the guitar, which entered close to the time that the banjo did. The mandolin had quite a bit of currency in Ireland by the 1960s and 1970s. I'm also going to show you an instrument which entered the Irish tradition also in the 1960s and 70s. Irish musicians who had been traveling on the continent and playing for tips on street corners in Eastern Europe and in Greece fell in love with the Greek bouzouki. So one of them, Andy Irvin, brought a bouzouki back home to Ireland and employed a luthier there to make him an Irish style bouzouki, with a body much more like a guitar, but a neck very like the Greek bouzouki. Eventually, this instrument, which is very close to the Irish bouzouki, was also created. This is called an octave mandolin because it's tuned exactly an octave beneath the mandolin. So again, I have pairs of strings, G, G, D, D, A, E. This is useful for playing accompaniment with drones. Or chords. I play a melody on it, it'll sound like this.
Why don't we play the whole tune? We're going to play the tune that Stan started, which is called Garrett Barry's Jig. It's named after a blind piper from County Clare, Ireland, whose name was Garrett Barry, and he lived in the early 20th century. So here is one time through the jig, Garrett Barry's Jig.
1 and a 2 and a 3 and a go.
So let's talk a little bit about how these tunes are put together, because there are thousands of different tunes in the Irish repertoire. They're really grouped together by their rhythm or their meter, and there are many, many jigs. So this is an example of what's called a double jig. It's in 6/8 time, so groupings of 3 beats in a measure, two groups of 3 beats in a measure, sort of. It would sound like this: jiggity, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the tune is structured in that way rhythmically as a jig. And then melodically, we have a key. The key is actually similar to rag kamaj, and the tune is in that key, doesn't deviate from that key, and it's in a structure of a very regular structure in which many dance tunes are in, which is a 2-part structure or binary structure. And each of the parts have 8 measures. So Stan's going to play the A section, and I'm going to count it out for you as he plays it. So
1, 2, here we go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's the A section, and then what happens is that A section is repeated. So we have 8 measures, then we have another 8 measures, and then we go to the second part, which we're going to call B. Again, it's 8 measures long. Typically, it's in a higher register than the A section. So here we go. We'll count it out.
1, 2, here we go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that gets repeated, so then we have an overall form of A, A, B, B, and then typically the tune is repeated. It can be repeated twice, it can be repeated 3 times or more. And then often musicians go into another similar tune, another jig in the same meter of 6/8 time, but with variety. And often that variety comes in the form of a different key. And so we're going to play 2 different tunes for you, put them together in a medley, and it's Garrett Barry's Jig, followed by the Miscovered Mountain, which is in A minor.
1 and a 2 and a 3 and a go.
We are indeed grateful to Dr. Stan Scott and Dr. Dorothy Hest for this erudite paper. Dr. Stan talked about the historical background of Irish musical traditions, Irish songs in Irish language and in English language. From old Irish songs to more modern melodies, instrumental ensembles, and the modern context of Irish music and musicians. I am sure that the students, teachers, and music lovers who listen to this paper are very much benefited. Thank you very much once again. Thank you.
After that very interesting webinar, we now present our next session. The topic this time is ethnic music in Southeast Asia with reference to Cambodia. Chairing this session is Professor T.V. Manikandan, and the panel consists of Ms. Va Bofari from Cambodia. Professor T.V. Manikandan is professor in the Department of Music, University of Delhi. Hailing from a family of musicians, Professor T.V. Manikandan came to the field of music and the later associations with eminent musicians and gurus instilled the spark of aesthetic creativity and performance in him. He is well known for his traditional approach with purity and classicism. He has performed at prestigious stages and festivals in India and abroad. Professor Manikandan is impaneled artist of Prasar Bharati and ICCR and represented India as a cultural ambassador in many festivals. He is the honorary chief editor and publisher of Sangeetika, a biannual music journal, published numerous articles in distinguished journals as well. He was instrumental in formulating educational modules and study materials on Carnatic music for National Institute of Open Schooling and also Indira Gandhi National Open University as a member of experts. He is the member Board of Studies of Indira Kala Sangeet Vishwavidyalay, Khairagar, University of Pondicherry and University of Kannur, besides being member of various expert committees and panels. And the panelist of this session, Ms. Va Bofari, is from Cambodia. She is a researcher and lecturer at the Royal University of Fine Arts, Cambodia. She works for Cultural Research Center. Her research is focused on music for ritual, music for religious ceremonies, and music for performance. She is also an editor of Cultural Research Journal of the Royal University of Fine Arts. She did her bachelor's degree in ethnomusicology and pursued master's degree in musicology. She has done extensive research in her field. Over to Professor T.V. Manikandan, the chairperson of this session.
Namaskar. Eminent personalities, research scholars, and music students. Let me welcome all of you to the last session of the international webinar on the traditional music. In this session, we are going to discuss about the traditional music of Southeast Asian countries and especially Cambodia. At the outset, let me thank Professor Deepti Omjeri Bhalla, Dean Faculty of Music and Fine Arts, for entrusting me with the responsibility of chairing this session and to introduce the speaker, Ms. Va Bofari, who is assistant professor in the Royal University of Cambodia. She is a music teacher, researcher, and editor. And she will be speaking about the different kind of music that assisted to the rituals in several occasions of social occasions of Cambodia. Let us hear the music of Cambodia through Wa Bafori.
Hello everyone, this is Bopari. I'm from Cambodia. I'm working for Cultural Research Center, the Royal University of Fine Arts, Cambodia. I'm so happy that also I would like to thank to Department of Music, University of New Delhi for inviting me to join this international webinar. Today my topic is about Khmer traditional music. Music is one of performing art which plays significant roles in Cambodian daily life. There are many kinds of traditional music ensembles such as music for religious, music for healing, music for entertainment, and music for the wedding. All musical pieces have been passed from one generation to one generation by oral tradition. Since we don't have that written musical notation, or we might don't know that what our ancestors have been wrote it down or not. But the way that we transmit our music from one generation to one generation by oral is all the pieces have been lost. And also some musical ensemble disappear. I would like to raise one example about the harp instrument of Cambodia. The instrument used to play during the reign of the Jayavaraman VII. This picture I took it at the Bayon's temple in Siem Reap provinces. The harp used to play to accompany the dance to offer to the god. But the instrument had been lost for 900 years ago already. Thanks to the French ethnomusicologist and the Khmer researcher for their effort for research this instrument and bring back the instrument to come back to our society. And at the time we didn't know that how we make it the melody that we could play, because we don't know at the time how they play that instrument. Nowadays we combine this harp instrument with the other instrument in the ensemble, such as the Maori ensemble, or they can play panpit, or they can play the wedding music. Since we don't have much time, I just have a brief or summary a little bit about the all ensemble in Cambodia. The first, I would like to show you about the panpit ensemble. The panpit music is for the religious ceremony, like the for like the Bon Pka or Kathan ceremony, and also accompany the classical dance. And all the instrument and that ensemble is about all the percussion instrument. This is one example of the panpit music that accompany the how to play the in respect to the teacher. They accompany in the ceremony, so you can listen to the song. Okay, you just listen to the Panpiet music, so I hope you enjoy the Panpiet song. The next one is about the Maori ensemble. The Maori ensemble is the music for entertainment, such as the party or the wedding reception, and also accompany the folk dance. The instrument compose the string instrument and percussion. This wedding is this instrument is also some come from the Panpiet and some from the wedding ensemble. They compose each other and then become the Maori ensemble. The next ensemble is the aria ensemble. Aria music is the music for healing, and after the patient recover from illness, they offer the aria music in return. As you know, in the past, when we don't have that medical doctor, the Khmer people always pray when the family someone in the family gets sick. They always pray that. Almost 90% of Khmer people, they believe in the Buddha, but they also believe in spirit. So when someone gets sick, they believe that maybe the spirit get angry with them. So they ask for help from them. After the patient get well, they offer the aria music. This is the picture of the aria ritual. You can see the patient, and you can see the ensemble behind the patient and the master of ceremony. Traditionally, we will have many instruments and other ensembles such as chapai, dong weng, or long neck lute, ksai mui, one string instrument, throw khmer, 3-string fiddle, a singer, and drum from 2 to 12. The lyric of the music is about to persuade the spirit. This is the instrument and the other ensemble. You can see one string instrument. This is the long neck lute instrument. This is the called pai-o. This is the 3-string fiddle. I just would like to show you the music of other ensemble that's accompanied in the ritual. Nowadays we have only two instruments like 2 drum and 1 throw, or we call 2-string fiddle. In this Fen province, some instruments can preserve, but some provinces the instrument already lost that because nobody play that instrument anymore. So please enjoy aria music. This is nowadays we have only these two kind of instrument. This is the drum, 2 drum. This is the throw, a 2-string fiddle, and 1 singer. This is the other ensemble that accompany in the ritual. You can see that. This is also another ensemble in another province, but they don't play in the other ritual. They play in the they call that village ceremony, that every year the villager always celebrate this ceremony like just to ask for the happiness, not to have the big disaster natural in the village. So they play the aria music. The next ensemble I would like to show you about the wedding music. The wedding ceremony is very meaningful to Cambodian people. The wedding music is very important in the ceremony. It is accompanied the whole ceremony in the beginning until the end. And the lyric of the song is about to give advice to new couple, how to live happily with each other, something like that. This is the picture of that wedding ensemble. You can see it is very similar to other ensemble. And we believe that it is adapted from the other ensemble because the instrument is very similar, the same, but the difference is a bit different melody and the lyric. So now I would like to play you a wedding song, so please enjoy a song. We also have another kind of wedding music we call the modern music. We call modern, but we play traditional music. Nowadays, not many people that want to hire the previous ensemble because they said that they have to spend a lot of money, so they prefer this kind of wedding music is better than. So please listen to the song, since you can recognize that how different it from the traditional wedding and the modern weddings ensemble. Please enjoy a song.
Hãy subscribe cho kênh Ghiền Mì Gõ để không bỏ lỡ
Even those musical instrument and musical ensemble very important in our Khmer life, but the young generation, they don't want to learn traditional music anymore because they think that all it is for the old people, not for the young people. And the instrument in some ensemble, they have been reused. For example, that just I said before that they don't want to spend much money to the musician. They, example, the complete ensemble, we have 10 instruments, but they want only 5 or 4 that, so they can reuse money to pay a lot of to the musician. And for the other music, since now the people don't believe in spirits anymore, so when they have illness, they go to hospital. So if we don't have the ceremony, so we don't have the music. Otherwise, in our cultural research center, we did the research about other music, and I have to transcribe music, and we have to record that music for documentary, so we can publish that the book, so the student can read that, so they know about their music. My presentation is finished now. I would like to thank everyone for your attention. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Wa Bafori, for such an excellent presentation. And I'm quite sure that the students all over the world will come to know about the traditional music of Cambodia and the status now they receive. As far as I am concerned, Cambodia was otherwise known as Kampucha Desha in ancient literature, and which was invaded by several monarchs in 3rd century BC Shatavahana from Coromandel coast, in 5th century Pallava, and 10th century Chola have invaded the Southeast Asian countries. And in 14th century Japanese and 17th century French has colonized Cambodia, which all made a tremendous change over the social fabric of Cambodia by influencing them, their rituals, music, culinary, fashion, everything. Even now, we have seen several instruments which Wa Baforia showed us, which is very closely similar to the instruments of early India, ancient India. The instrument called samphor, which was similar to the mridang, and the chape dangweng, which is very similar to the sitar, and the sangkok as the Khmer harp is very similar to the sakota yard of the ancient Tamil music. The kind of musical instruments is closely followed by this contemporary music scenario in Cambodia. And we can see the ritualistic compositions or music forms such as Pin, Peet, Mahori, the festival songs and the songs related to marriage and funeral and other religious, which is quite similar to the traditional music of Indian nature, which all had a tremendous influence by the earlier invaders and musicians who persuaded the current generation. We are immensely thankful to Va Baforia for such a mind-boggling presentation. Thanks once again to all the participants. Thank you.
After that very engrossing webinar, we now begin our concert series. We now present Thai classical music recital by Professor Manop Visutipat and his group. Manop Visutipat is Professor of Thai Traditional Music at the Department of Thai and Asian Music at the Faculty of Fine Arts, Srinakharen Virot University. He has a PhD in music from the University of Delhi, India. He's also researching on Pleng Rabam Ban Na. Most of his research work is published in academic journals related to Thai traditional music studies and ethnomusicology studies of Southeast Asia. He has actively participated in music and dance festivals, seminars, symposiums, conferences, and workshops across the world. Today's presentation is by his group, which is called Sai Mai Ensemble. Sai Mai is a Thai traditional ensemble with many formations of musical instruments in the ensemble, including mostly Thai instruments and some other instruments in some cases. This ensemble has been performing various kinds of traditional, contemporary, and folk music. The members of this ensemble are professional musicians, music experts, music scholars, and new generation musicians. Professor Manop Visutipat and group from Thailand.
Sawadee krab. Hello. I am Manop Visutipat, an alumnus of the Department of Music. On behalf of Sai Mai Ensemble, I would like to thank Professor Deepti Unchari Bhala, Dean and Head of Department of Music, University of Delhi, for giving us the opportunity to be part of this fascinating webinar. All best and take care. Dhanyawad.
And now we conclude the 2-day international webinar with a Hindustani classical vocal recital by Pandit Madhup Mudgal, a renowned classical vocal singer of the country. Son of the late Padma Shri Pandit Vinay Chandra Maudgalya, founder principal of Delhi's Gandharv Mahavidyalaya, Madhupji's initial training was under his father and thereafter under Shri Vasant Thakar and Pandit Jasraj. During those years, he was also able to absorb ideas from the many visiting musicians who formed part of the Vidyalaya's extended family. But the abiding influence on his art has been that of his mentor and guru, Pandit Kumar Gandharv. This influence has shaped his style and approach and given him a deep awareness of the fine balance between tradition and innovation. Madhupji is a dedicated teacher and principal of the Gandharv Mahavidyalaya, New Delhi. He's a regular performer at important platforms and festivals in India and abroad, and as a top-grade artist of All India Radio, he features regularly on AIR's national program. As conductor of the acclaimed Gandharv Choir, Madhupji has proved himself to be a brilliant composer of choral music. His work with solo dancers and his compositions for choreographed group dance works uses a variety of poetic texts and are much appreciated by both connoisseurs and lay listeners. He has also performed in fusion concerts with eminent jazz musicians. He is well known for his compositions and rendering of poetry of saint poets Kabir, Meera, Surdas, Tulsidas, and Nanak. Pandit Madhup Mudgal has been a member of various important committees of government institutions, such as the Department of Culture, the Sahitya Kala Parishad, and the Executive Council of Sangeet Natak Academy, New Delhi. Accompanying him on tabla this evening is Shri Shambhunath Bhattacharya, and on harmonium, Dr. Vinay Mishra.
Yes, ah Nadani ki gunja Nathaniya ki gunja gunja kuve par bhira bai kuve par bhira bai kuve par bhira bai kuve par bhira bai agar Nathaniya ki
After that melodious recital by Pandit Madhu Mudgal, I now request Professor Prateek Chaudhary, professor at our faculty, to present vote of thanks.
Namaskar, honorable dignitaries, eminent musicians, music scholars, educationists, students of music, and lovers of music. You just witnessed the special two-day international webinar on the topic Traditional Music in Different Cultures, Opportunities and Challenges in the Changing Global Scenario, organized by the Department of Music, Faculty of Music and Fine Arts of the University of Delhi on 25th and 26th of February 2021. This was the first international webinar on a virtual mode organized by the Department of Music, the Faculty of Music and Fine Arts, University of Delhi, which was held online, and I'm glad to say that we have broken our boundaries and have extended our arms, welcoming the world to join the Department of Music of the University of Delhi. The world has become very small, as we saw, and as the saying in Sanskrit goes, Vasudev Kutumbakam. We all have come close to each other through the digital medium and are able to exchange our thoughts with the world sitting in our own houses, in our own departments, and in our own universities, which also is a great boon. This international webinar was a great success, as it was adorned by the presence and participation of honorable dignitaries, renowned scholars, and eminent musicians from India and across the world. I consider it my privilege in thanking our chief guest, Professor P.C. Joshi ji, the Honorable Acting Vice Chancellor of the University of Delhi, who could spare time from his busy schedule to be with us on this special occasion, enlightening us through his valuable words of wisdom. I wish to convey thanks to our special guest of honor, Mr. K.V. Rao, the president of the reputed Singapore Indian Fine Arts Society, also known as SIFAS, which is based in Singapore, for being with us today throughout in the international webinar. I wish to share here about the recent MOU that the department has signed
with CIFAS, thereby expanding its academic activities to newer and wider horizons. The beautiful musical presentation given by the students of CIFAS of Singapore was an amazing example of our Indian cultural tradition being showcased so wonderfully by the students of the Cultural Center. I heartily congratulate all the teachers of CIFAS for their dedicated efforts. Our keynote speaker for the international webinar was the Honorable Director General of Indian Council for Cultural Relations, known as ICCR, Mr. Dinesh K. Patnaik ji. His vast experience and knowledge, being an honorable diplomat of the Government of India, reflected in his kind address to us, which was a matter of great encouragement for all of us. I would like to thank him heartily for sparing his valuable time. Now coming to the sessions. Session 1 on day 1 of the international webinar was on ethnic music in Eastern Europe. Our honored expert and panelist who illuminated us on his beautiful thoughts was Dr. Paolo Pasciola from Italy, which was a knowledgeable experience for all of us. Session 2 of day 1 of the international webinar was on the topic Traditional Music in South Asia. We were honored to have Mr. Ravi Bandhu Vidyapati from Sri Lanka as our expert speaker and panelist in this session, who gave a beautiful presentation of the traditional music in South Asia, especially in Sri Lanka. Session 2 on day 1 was followed by the beautiful Carnatic Veena recital by Dr. S.V. Shahana from Mysore in India. Her wonderful performance touched the hearts of all the music lovers. She was very ably accompanied on Mridangam by Vidwan Radhesh ji. I would like to thank both the virtuosos for their beautiful presentation. The penultimate presentation of day 1 was the beautiful Western music recital by Dr. Varirak and her wonderful group of musicians from Thailand. It was a beautiful presentation which illuminated the viewers of the rich tradition of music of Thailand, which is also very unique. I would like to thank Dr. Varirak and her musicians for this special treat for us. Day 2 of the international webinar began with a wonderful and melodious Saraswati Vandana by the students of the Department of Music, of the Faculty of Music and Fine Arts, University of Delhi, which was conducted by Dr. Vineet Goswami. I thank him and all the students who had participated in this orchestral presentation for such a beautiful presentation. Session 3 of day 2 of the international webinar was devoted to the topic Traditional Music in the Middle East. And the honorable panelist and expert was Dr. Maryam Grassau from Iran. It was an illuminating presentation by her, which led to the enrichment of our knowledge, all who were present here and virtually too. Session 4 of day 2 of the international webinar was on the topic of folk music in Western Europe, that is Ireland. The honorable expert panelists in this session were Dr. Stan Scott and Professor Dorothy Haas from USA, whose presentations were a great learning experience for us, along with it being very, very enjoyable too. The last, that is session 5 of day 2 of the international webinar, was devoted to the topic ethnic music in Southeast Asia. The featured expert panelist was Miss Va Bafari from Cambodia, who gave a beautiful presentation on the traditional music found in Cambodia, which was an eye-opener for all music lovers. Session 5 on day 2 was followed by a beautiful Thai classical music recital by Professor Manop Vishutipat and his group of musicians from Thailand. Here we got to witness a melodious and beautiful presentation of the classical music of Thailand. I would like to thank Professor Manop Vishutipat and his able group of musicians for giving us this opportunity to witness the beautiful art from, and in fact it was a beautiful presentation which everybody appreciated. The penultimate presentation of the webinar was by the eminent vocalist Pandit Madhup Mudgal, who gave a very melodious presentation through his concert and beautifully showcased the rich and traditional Indian classical musical style, which is also known as Hindustani Shastriya Sangeet, through his vocal recital. Panditji was beautifully accompanied by Sri Shambhunath Bhattacharya on tabla and Dr. Vinay Mishra on the harmonium. I would like to thank all the honored panelists and experts of the 2-day international webinar for accepting our invitation and giving such wonderful presentations, which will surely be remembered for times to come. My thanks also go to the honorable chairpersons of the sessions, Professor Anupam Mahajan, Professor Sunira Kasliwal, Professor T.V. Manikandan, Professor P.B. Kannakumar, and Professor Ojesh Pratap Singh for taking out their valuable time to chair the individual sessions of the international webinar. My sincere gratitude go to the pillar and the support system of our international webinar, Professor Deepthi Bhalla, the Dean and Head of the Faculty of Music and Fine Arts, University of Delhi, without whose ideas and active support, this one-of-a-kind, unique, virtual, international webinar would not have been possible. My sincere thanks to you, respected madam, for organizing such a beautiful webinar which has helped in enriching the knowledge of the teachers, the students of music, and all music lovers who have watched this beautiful international webinar for the past 2 days. I would like to thank our wonderful compare and anchor for the international webinar, Mrs. Mridu Tripathi, whose beautiful anchoring was like an icing on the cake. I would be failing in my duties if I don't thank the coordinators who have worked day and night to bring this beautiful international webinar to you. My sincere thanks goes to Professor Ananya De for helping and coordinating the activities right since the inception of the idea of the international webinar. Dr. Ajay Kumar, the technical head, along with his group of able students who made it possible for us to reach out to you and the world. And last but not the least, our faculty of teachers, accompanies, and office staff for extending their full cooperation to make this first of its kind virtual international webinar by the Department of Music a grand success. Finally, I would like to say that we all have immensely enjoyed these 2 days of webinar and will again look forward to your kind cooperation and collaboration in our future endeavors too. So this is Professor Pratik Chaudhary, Professor of Sitar of the Faculty of Music, University of Delhi, signing off with a big, big thank you to all. Thank you.